Hey everyone. First of all, I would like to thank everyone for joining the session, the webinar on Red Hat Ansible. Okay, and so today we'll be focusing on what Ansible is, why do we need Ansible, and since you're all RHCSA certified, right, which is Red Hat Certified System Administration, right? So this webinar will drive you through your next career path, like why, what should be the path for you after completing the RHCSA, and what is the path that you need to opt, and why you need to opt that path. So all those things we will cover in this webinar, and this webinar will go for another maybe 30 to 40 minutes, right? And then after this webinar, I'll quickly run through a small demo which shows you how we can automate things in Ansible, right? And I hope most of you are from the infrastructure background, if I am not wrong. But even though if you are not from infra background, Ansible is used in various platforms in the IT industry. So we will cover all those things in this webinar so that you'll get some idea on why you need to learn Ansible and how it can help you to excel in your career path, right? So before we start, I just want to give you a brief intro of myself. I am Arvind. I am, I'm currently working as a consultant and solutions architect, and I've been in the IT industries for almost like 20 years. And I carry. I had I have been in the various roles starting from system admin in my career, from where I've seen a lot of departments, and then now I'm currently working as a solutions architect. And coming part to my teaching experience, I also have 20 years of experience in teaching industry, and I have associated with Amrita from 2005, if I'm not wrong. And from there, I collaborate with Amrita, and then I used to deliver webinars and trainings from 2005, and that was the that's the training experience that I have, and I'm also certified on OpenShift, Ansible, Red Hat, Kubernetes, Terraforms, Azure, and AWS. So, so I've seen, since I said like my career started in 2005, right? So I have seen how IT landscape has changed, right? So in 2005, we used to have physical servers, right? From there, we moved into virtual environment, and in 20 in I think in 2000. I think close to 2005, they started virtualization technologies, and from there, from 2020, especially in the COVID time, the DevOps came into the market, and from there, the container has evolved. So I have seen all the different technologies, right, starting from physical infrastructure until your container. So I can correlate how the IT landscape has changed from the last 20-25 years. So, and how rapidly it has changed from the last 5 years. Especially last 5 years, there's a tremendous changes in the IT industries. And the reason why we are conducting this webinar is this will give you some idea on how you need to speed up, scale up in terms of technology, right? So since you are from the infrastructure background doing RHCSA, right? So you need to scale up because that Red Hat certifications will not help you to achieve your goals. So you need to have some sort of certifications, some sort of, and based on that, you'll have to excel, right? Today we will see how we can cover those few topics, but some in the interest of time, we might not be able to cover everything, but I'll try to cover whatever possible, and with that will give you some idea on what should be your next career path, right? Now, right, and then so coming part to today's agenda, so we will cover a small recap on what RHCA was, because you're all RHCA certified, right? So which I'll on a high level, I'll go through the contents of what you have done in RHCSA. Then we'll spend some time on why we need automation, how automation helps in the real time scenarios, Then we will focus on what Ansible is and how Ansible is different from other automation technologies. And then we will also look at the most common buzzwords in the IT industries is DevOps and AI, right? So nowadays people are more talking about AI, right? So how Ansible can help, or how Ansible can integrate with your DevOps and AI, because you need to scale up your knowledge based on these technologies, right? So how Ansible will help you to achieve your goals. And then finally, last 5-10 minutes, I'll try to show a small demo where it will showcase how Ansible can automate the stuff. And finally, we will wrap up with a small Q&A, right? So that will be the agenda for the next 30 to 35 minutes, right? Now, coming part to the RHCA contents, right? So probably you might be aware, right? Your RHCSA contents was basically centered around Linux administration, Red Hat administration, where you see what Linux is, how to create users, how to manage users, how to manage file systems like creating partitions, creating LVMs, expanding it, managing your LVMs, boot process, installing the packages, and then you also saw how to start stop services, networking concepts like how to assign IPs, how to create firewalls, right, firewall rules, and you also have seen some sort of shell scripts, but not at a but that is mostly at a high level. So how you can automate using shell scripts, right? And then some SLNX management, right? And then I mean, you have gone through some exam prep with live sessions and all those stuff here from Amrita. And then finally, you also covered the introduction to containers, right? So these are some of the topics that you covered in Red Hat, which is self-sufficient actually, which is sufficient to manage the Red Hat infrastructure, right? But after this, what should be your next career path? So that is the today's topic, where once you are, because Linux is the base for everything, right? If you look at the containers DevOps, right? The base platform for containers is Linux, because you cannot install OpenShift Kubernetes on Windows, right? And you can run standalone containers on Windows, but those are not recommended, right? So if you want to work in a DevOps environment, the base platform is Red Hat. I mean Linux. But why Red Hat? Red Hat is an enterprise Linux, which is a proven track record of running the core infra services in the IT industry, right? So that is the core platform which you already have certified, and you know how Red Hat works. And on top of Linux, right, which is Red Hat, we deploy various tools like DevOps tools like Ansible automation tool, Kubernetes, OpenShift, your DevOps tools like Jenkins, Maven, CI/CD, Prometheus, Grafana. You have hundreds of tools in DevOps, and the base for all these tools is Linux. Right? So, this is what that is the reason why we force students to learn Linux, because this is the base. Without Linux, you cannot understand the concepts of DevOps or the concepts of AI, right? So this is what you have learned in the RHCSA. So now the next concept is which where you need to focus is on automation. So why automation? So we will discuss about why do we need automation and how automation helps you, right? Now, so in this, like we'll see what is automation is and why exactly you need it, right? Now, if you observe what is an automation, so automation in the IT industries means you want to automate a regular day-to-day activity using a technology, right? When I say technology, it can be a shell script, it can be a Ansible, it can be any other tools, automation tools, right? Now, what does this automation solve, right? Like an example, automation can solve server provisioning, provisioning your environments. Like if you are an infrastructure guy, you will create VMs in your environments, right? So how long will it take to create VMs? right? It depends, right? It takes from an hour to 1 day to provision a single VM, because provisioning VM is not a single task, right? You have to install the operating system, you have to harden the operating system, you have to install the dependencies, you have to install the software, and then you have to hand it over to the monitoring team, and the monitoring team will install the monitoring, and then you will hand it over to the development team. So that will take at least minimum 1 hour to 1 day, or even more than 1 day based on the environments, right? So Ansible can automate, and when you automate, the provisioning will be done within less than a minute, right? So deploying applications. So if you wanted to deploy an applications, if you are deploying frequently, right, then you can automate that task. Managing servers, running backups, right? Automating backups, like usually backups runs at night, 12 o'clock or midnight or in the weekends, right? So you don't need to go, and you don't need to go and sit watch the backup or trigger the backup at night or in the weekends. So you can automate it using the Ansible. You can schedule it, and the Ansible will take care of the backups, right? Similarly, configuration management, container management like Kubernetes, OpenShift, right? So configuration management, like if there is any configuration drift, right, even that configuration drift will be reverted by the Ansible. Testing, if you want to test in the CI/CD environment, if you want to test anything, you can automate the whole process. So these are some of the tasks that Ansible can automate. In fact, not Ansible, any automation can automate, right? So again, we will discuss in a couple of minutes, like why we have to pick Ansible, because as I said, we have a lot of automation tools, right? Then what is a special with Ansible? That is what we'll be covering in the next few slides, right? So automation will help you to automate the regular day-to-day activities, right? Now, so if you observe, as I said, right, automation, if you look at the top column, right? So if there is no automation, the tasks are manual, and there are chances that you will see human errors, because you have run the task manually. The scaling is also a big challenge. Like if you wanted to scale your application, scale your nodes, which is a challenging without automation. And operations, day-to-day operations, like managing the servers, managing the infrastructure, right? When I say infrastructure, it can be on-prem, it can be cloud, or it can be any platform, right? And operational costs. So if you don't automate, if a company doesn't automate its tasks, right, they will end up hiring a lot of human resources, right? So if there is no if there is an automation, right, that automation will do the work of 100 people or 200 people based on the load, right? So when you don't have an automation, the operational cost of the company will also increase. So companies are investing in the automation tools to automate their day-to-day tasks, right? So these are some of the reasons why companies are what you call companies are looking for automation solutions, right? Now, now the challenge is anyone can automate, right? Probably in your RHCSA course, you might have written a small shell script, right? That is nothing but also an automation, but that is not a full-fledged automation. That why we'll see that in a couple of minutes. So anyone can automate, but the challenge is the enterprise needs to coordinate and scale. That is the challenge, right? That is, if I write a script to automate my day-to-day tasks, the same script, I can share it to my team members, and they can also use my script to automate their day-to-day tasks. So the challenge is you need to have, right, a common tool that can coordinate, scale across the organization. So why and how, we will see in the next slide, right? Now, many organizations, like not only many, in every organization, you have different teams, right? You have infra team, network team, storage team, monitoring team, service desk team, you have DevOps team nowadays, and you have AI team, right? You have cloud team, right? You have hybrid cloud team. So you have multiple teams in your organization, right? Now, every team can automate their task, right? If network team can automate his activity, infrastructure team can activate their activities, right? Automate their activities. Similarly, DevOps team can activate their activities using their own tools, right? But at the end, what happens? I will end up as a company, the company needs to procure 15 to 20 tools to automate the task, which is not an ideal solution. So the companies are looking for one unique automation tool that can span across multiple teams. It can be networking, storage, infrastructure, DevOps, AI, whatever is the team, they are looking for one automation tool which can address all these challenges, right? So because IT team and a network team might use proprietary Cisco tools or proprietary, F5 automation tools. Now, as an infrastructure guy, I am managing VMware. I will use VMware vRealize or some sort of VMware automation tool. And the cloud team, let's say if they are using AWS, AWS will use CloudWatch, or they will use proprietary AWS monitoring, right? So this should not be the scenario. So you should have one Ansible tool that can automate your whole infrastructure, right? Now, now the solution is the companies we are looking for one unique solution which can address all the requirements of DevSecOps team, IT operation team, security operations team, network operations team, and everything, right? So what is that tool, right? Which is nothing but your Red Hat Ansible automation platform. So Red Hat Ansible automation is the platform that is used across the teams. So one tool can serve all the challenges. Like if I build an automation platform using Ansible in an organization, irrespective of whatever team they are working, networking, storage, infra, cloud, they can use this platform and they can automate, right? So that is the core challenges that Ansible is addressing, right? Now, so now you understood why Ansible, why companies use Ansible, right? But the next question that comes to your mind is, hey, why Ansible? I have a lot of, hundreds of tools which are available in the market, right? So why Ansible, right? So the reason for it is, right? You know, right? So the why Ansible is, there are three main reasons. Ansible is simple, powerful, and agentless. So when I say simple, right? So you don't have to you don't have to know any programming language. Like as an example, let's say your company has Chef automation tool or Puppet automation tool or any kind of automation tool. Let's say if you're using Chef or Puppet, you need to know either Python or Ruby to automate your, you know, uh, uh, to write the playbook, right? So you need to know some sort of programming. It can be Ruby or Python. So to automate using the other tools. So for that, again, the challenge is the engineer should also know programming. So in this case, if you use Ansible, you don't have to worry about writing the programming code. Everything is already written. So they are all available. You just have to write few lines in a simple YAML format, and then you can start automating it. So that is the beauty of Ansible, which is simple, human readable playbooks, which I will show you in a couple of minutes, like how to write a simple playbook. And then it is powerful. As I said, right, you can manage the whole organization infrastructure, network, storage, infra, cloud, public cloud, private cloud, anything, right? So that is where the Ansible has a lot of collaborations with other vendors to automate your day-to-day activities across the environments. And the one more important advantage is agentless, right? So you don't need to install any agents on the clients. That is, let's say if you have a huge environment of 1,000 servers, right? Let's say 1,000 clients. When you want to install Ansible, right? Or when you wanted to install any automation tool, right? So you need to install client on all those 1,000 nodes. Not only installation, after installation you need to manage the software also, like every you need to update, patch the client software also. You need to make sure the clients has a latest version of the patches, right? So these are all the challenges with other automation tools. But in Ansible there is no agents. Your server will log in to the clients using the simple SSH protocol. If it is, I mean, now previously for Windows it was using WinRM. Now Windows also it is using SSH. So for Ansible, you don't need any clients that you need to install agents. So it uses simply it uses the SSH protocol. Okay? So that is how you can easily install and start configuring your clients using the Ansible. Now next thing is how can you deploy, where can you deploy the Ansible? So you can deploy Ansible on your regular Linux operating system, RHEL OS, or you can deploy Ansible on OpenShift. So OpenShift is an enterprise Kubernetes platform that is used especially for DevOps environments. So you can install those as well, and that is managed by self-management, where you have to manage. Or you have some offerings from cloud provider as well, Azure, AWS, and GCP. So they offer Ansible as well, and then you can deploy Ansible on top of these clouds, and then both the vendors, the respective cloud vendor and the Red Hat, will support the customer, right? So you have multiple options. You can deploy wherever you want. It can be on cloud, it can be on-prem, or it can be on a container platform as well, right? So that is your that is the way how you deploy Ansible. And what Ansible can automate, as I said, it can automate firewalls, it can automate servers, infrastructure, it can automate your clouds, AWS, GCP, Alibaba, you name it. Most of the major clouds your Ansible will support, right? And then it also supports the load balancers, right? You can automate F5 load balancer, Citrix load balancer, or any kind of load balancers. Application, storage, networking, containers like Kubernetes and Docker or Podman, and then virtualization platforms like Azure, VMware or Hyper-V, or your Nutanix, or uh, KVM, like your Red Hat virtualization, right? So your Red Hat has a wide portfolio of supporting your whole infrastructure, right? And the good part is, if in case you don't find the plugins for your device, you can use SSH and automate your tasks, right? That is also possible using the Ansible, right? Now, and then, as I said, right, Ansible has a 170 plus contents which are available readily that you can use. And then Red Hat has partnered with 70 plus major customers like VMware, Terraforms, Microsoft Cloud, and they have built the modules, right? So let's say as an example, if I want to automate AWS environments, right? So Red Hat has built the modules for AWS. There are almost like 100 to 200 modules which are already built, right? So with the help of that modules, Ansible will talk to the AWS, connect to the AWS, and it will perform your activities, right? So likewise, like AWS, we have 70 plus vendors, and the number is rapidly increasing. So mostly, most of the major vendors are supporting Ansible, right? Most of the major vendors, and the number is increasing. So that is how the Ansible is rapidly evolving in the IT landscape. Not evolving, it's already evolved actually, but still it is focusing on the DevOps tools and AI tools, especially to automate the tasks on AI and DevOps environments, right? Similarly, as I said, right, it's a platform for everyone, right? It can be infra, storage, cloud, and whatever team you call it, right? So again, there are a lot of things here which which might not be able to cover because in the interest of time, but there are a lot of event-driven automation, right? So if some event occurs in your organization, Ansible can respond to that event and it can fix the issue, right? So that is how the Ansible can proactively, not reactively, proactively, it identifies and it fixes the issue, right? So that is how you get, and then using Ansible, you get real-time analysis, right? And reporting. And then it is flexible, scalable, and then based on that, you can automate your task, right? So this is one of the best platform that is suited for the enterprise organizations, right? Now, when you talk about Ansible, three things come into picture, right? Which is create, manage, and scale. So not only Ansible, any automation tool, if it has these three features, then that is the right fit for your organization, for any enterprise organization, right? Once you complete this webinar, right, and you go through in the internet, you can go through which automation tools can support these three features, and the best tool even in the internet they will suggest is Ansible, because Ansible we will see this in a couple of minutes. So Ansible is one of the best tool that can address these three challenges: creating, managing, and scaling. So how do it addresses, right? So when I say create, now when I say create, right? Even let's not talk about Ansible now. Let's say you want to write a shell script to automate something, right? So if you want to automate by writing a shell script, you need to write that shell script, right? Either you have to download it from the internet or download from the internet and you have to modify it, right? So you need to have that kind of script, right? Similarly, Ansible, we call it as playbooks, right? So you can write playbooks, and in the playbook I will have modules, right? As I told you, right, every vendor will have modules. Like AWS, I have maybe 100 modules. Azure, I have 200 modules. GCP might have 100 modules. So Red Hat has built all these modules for different vendors: F5, Citrix, Cloud, you know your Dell, HP, whatever tools you use, right? So they have built all the modules, right? So in the playbook I will define the activities that I wanted to perform, and I will also call the respective modules, right? So that the playbook will contain everything and whatever I need and whatever environment that I want to automate, based on the instructions, it will automate my task, right? So that is how you can write your playbooks. And remember, this playbook is totally in the human readable format in the YAML text, right? So it will not take your regular, you know, regular what you call programming tools like your Java or on Ruby or whatever you do use, right? So which we will see in a couple of minutes in the lab. I will show you a sample playbook like it to understand how Ansible works, right? Now, now right? Now, how does this Ansible work? So, in the Ansible, there is a concept called collections. The collections is nothing but a collection of modules, playbooks, and roles that will be used, that can be used by the user. Now, as I said, right, if you want to automate using a shell script, you will write either the shell script, you will download it from the internet, right? Because in the internet you will find a lot of shell scripts, right? You will download and you modify the shell script based on your requirement, right? Similarly, collections is officially from Red Hat, you can download the collections from Red Hat, which has some sample playbooks, sample modules, and all those stuff. And then, you can modify it and then you can start automating. So you don't have to write this from the scratch. With the collections, you can simply download and fine tune the playbooks, and then you can start automating it rather than writing it from the scratch. Right? Dependencies, that collections will also have dependencies like dependency plugins and all those stuff. Right? Because if you want to automate AWS environments, right, you need to have AWS Python modules. So those are dependencies. Like if you want to automate VMware activities, right? So you need to have Python PyVMware module, right? So because your Ansible runs on Python, right? So they have written all the Python modules in for your Ansible. You don't have to write anything. Use those modules and then automate it, right? So that is called, those are dependencies. And we will combine these collections and dependencies, and we will create a runtime. We will create a Docker container or Podman container, which in Ansible we call it as execution environment. Again, these are all technical jargons that we regularly use in Ansible, but don't confuse. But when you opt for this training, we will understand what this runtime is, what collections is, what dependencies are, and then you will go more in depth, right? So that's so. In the interest of time, we'll be talking this on a high level, right? So runtime. So runtime is an environment, a container which has this collections and dependencies together, which can used to log into your remote servers, and it will try to automate the activities, right? And then, as I said, right, automation environment. So this is where your automation environment will come into picture, right? So one second, let me hide at the, yeah. So this is what is your Ansible automation environment is, right? So in this environment, you have your Ansible core, which is your core Ansible modules with dependencies and collections. So these three are combined with the container image, which is UBI image, and then it creates the execution environments. So this is the execution environment through which I can automate the task. Like for AWS, I will create one execution environment. For VMware, I will create one execution environment. For Azure, I will create one execution environment. Where that execution environment for AWS, it will have all my AWS modules. VMware execution environment, I have all VMware modules. So likewise, each execution environment will have its own modules, right? So that is how your execution environment will help you to speed up your automation. Now, that is how you manage. So that is how you, what you call, create, right? And then how do you manage them, right? So to manage your infrastructure, we have Ansible controller, which provides you the web UI access to your Ansible environment, right? Where the web UI provides role-based access control. You can create users and you can assign the permissions to the users actually, right? Right? Powerful workflows. You can create a workflow. What is a workflow? Workflow is nothing but a series of activities that you want to perform step by step, right? So let's say, I want to deploy a VM, right? So what are the tasks involved in creating a VM? First, you need to log into VMware, if it is a VMware, create a VM, clone a template, create a VM, assign IP, patch the operating system, take a snapshot, install the dependency tools like backup, monitoring, configuring the backup, right? And then creating the storage, creating users. So these are all the activities that you need to perform in a sequential order, right? So that is where I create, workflows. And then I create a workflow and I will push the work. Centralized login from one web UI, I can monitor my whole automation logging in the environment. Like I can understand who is running what playbook, whether the playbook has failed, it is successful, and all those stuff. I'll check from the centralized log. Credential management, I can save the username, password within the Ansible environment, right? right? And then push button automation. Like you can also configure a push button automation. Like when you click on that button, it will automate the automation. So you don't have to run any script at the backend. Just with a single click of a button, you can push your playbook or the entire workflow, right? So that is, you can manage the whole automation platform using the web UI, right? And as I said, right, that uh, automation controller will provide all these services: credential management, user management, centralized logging, system integration, and automation workflow. So if you observe this five, what you call features, right? This is what the enterprise will look for in any automation, right? So if in your companies, if someone asks you, hey, what is the tool that you suggest, right? No, don't tell them that, hey, use Ansible, right? Of course, Ansible is what you call powerful and widely used in the market, but you need to tell the companies or the person that, see, any tool should have these five features, right? Automation, workflows, credential management, user management, logging, and system integration. So that is, and you need to check if that tool has these five features, right? And Ansible is the one which has all these features and which is best for the enterprise automation, right? And scaling. Now, scaling is also a challenge, right? Now let's say you have multiple environments. You have one environment in AWS, one in Azure, one in GCP, one in your local data center in India, one data center is in US, one data center is in Australia. So if you are working for an MNC, you have multiple data centers, multiple locations spread across the globe. Now, let's say if I am working in India and if I want to automate a task in my US data center, I will see a latency, right? I will see a latency because my packet has to flow from India to US data center and then it has to execute, which might involve some latency. If it is one task, it is fine. If I want to automate 200 servers in US, definitely there will be a latency. So to avoid that one, right, I can create automation mesh, Ansible mesh, right? I can create one Ansible mesh in US, in East, West, South regions, right? And then globally, I will manage all these, what you call, mesh from my Ansible console, so that the request will be sent. Like, let's say if I'm in India, I will push the request to my Ansible US, right? And this Ansible will run the automation in the US region, right? So that is how the Ansible mesh will help you to automate without any latency, right? So that, if you observe, I have, you have seen controller, right? I have a controller which manages all my permissions, all my RBAC, all those stuff. And automation controller, I will have automation mesh, right? Which covers three different regions. Let's say this is AWS, this is GCP, this is Azure, let's say, right? So I will deploy one VM, one mesh in Ansible, in AWS environment, one in GCP, one in Azure. So my Ansible controller is in on-prem. I will log into my on-prem environment and then I will push my automation, AWS automation, to this execution environment, so that the mesh will send the request to this particular AWS environment. If it is GCP, this will handle. If it is Azure, this will handle. So that is how you will get this scalability, right? So you don't need to install full Ansibles on each and every environment, which is again a tiresome job and it is expensive as well in terms of licensing. So Ansible mesh will help you to delegate the tasks to the mesh or supporting control nodes. That is how your Ansible automation can scale, right? So create, manage, and scale. So that should be your features of your any automation tool. And Ansible is one of the one of the popular tool that is highly used in the market because of these features. Right now, as I said, right, see, users, as an infrastructure guy, I will log into my controller, right, and I will create an execution environment. It can be AWS execution environment or Azure or GCP or whatever it is, right? And from there the request will send to automation mesh, and then that automation mesh will uh, update or automate the task, either is in data center or cloud or edge, right? So this is how the automation process will go. So I will trigger a playbook through controller. The controller will pick up an execution environment. That execution environment will send the request to the designated automation mesh, and that will automate the underlying infrastructure, right? So this is AWS. Similarly, I will have one for Azure, I will have one for GCP. Okay, so I can scale my deployment without disturbing my control plane. See, this is my control plane, right? Without disturbing this, I will keep on adding my automation mesh, which will scale up my automation environment, right? So that is how, right, your automation will help, right? Now, so far you have seen what Ansible is, what it can do, and how Ansible is different from other automation tools, right? Now we will look at the complexity of the playbook. So as I said, right, most of the automation tools you need to know any one programming language, Python, Ruby, or whatever it is based on the tool. But for Ansible, you don't need any programming language experience. You just need a simple YAML language, right? YAML format. Now, if you see, this is a simple playbook to install Apache web server. Apache is your web server, right? HTTP web server, right? See, simple. It says name equal to so-and-so name, on which host you want to install. Web is the host name. Become equal to true. Again, I'm not going in depth because you need to spend a lot of time on this, but I'm showing you how things works, or how easy it is to write a playbook, right? Now on this web host, I am installing a Apache web server. See, task, under task, I will define what packages I need to install. See, Ansible built-in packages, right? So this is the module that Red Hat has built to install the package, either using yum or DNF module. So name equal to HTTP, state equal to present. So this module will log into the web host, web server, right? It will install HTTP package and create index.html file. I want to create index.html file. So for that, the module is Ansible built-in template. So this is one module which has been built by Red Hat, and this will create files on the clients. That is, source equal to files index.html. This is the local file system on my Ansible node, and destination is where www.html. What is the destination host? See, this is the destination host, the web server. On the web server, I will copy this index.html file to where www.html. This is something like your SCP command. So copying a file from your server to client, right? Likewise, for every activity, there is a module. For every activity, you will have a module. In package installation, reboot, creating files, installing package, starting service, stopping service, creating file system, right? Creating users, creating passwords, changing sudo access. You have seen a lot of activities in your RHCSA, right? All those activities you will have a modules, right? Ansible has almost like 3000 plus modules. You can use it to automate almost all the environments, right? And finally, I installed the package, I created the index.html file, I will restart the service. So for that, the module is built-in service module. HTTP is the name, state equal to started. So I want the HTTP service to be started, right? So this is how you write a playbook, and then you install, create files and restart, start, and you can do any activities with the help of the inbuilt modules. So inbuilt modules are written in the Python. So you don't have to write any Python program. You use these modules and give your parameters. What service you want, whether you want to be started, stopped, or restarted, you can define. Right, again, you will learn this more in depth when you opt this course. You will learn in depth, right? That's fine. This is the high level overview of how Ansible playbook looks like, right? Now, again, I've explained all these things, right? So this is what the next slide. So I want to install Apache on a host called web, right? Then I want to copy my index.html using the template module, right? Copy from the local server to client, right? Similarly, the next thing is extra bit. So if you want, again, there is a debug module which will use it to print the output on the screen. Like you have echo command, right? So similarly, you can use the echo, similar to echo, you can use the debug command. So debug is the module which is similar to your echo command, which will display the output on the screens. Okay? And then again, when you are using Ansible, the inventory file plays a major role. So you need to create your inventory. Like in the inventory, I will define my host, like web servers, TV servers, switches, right? So you will define all those nodes. If you have 100 nodes, 200 nodes, right? You have to have a appropriate inventory file. And when you run the playbook, right, the playbook will look for the host inside your inventory file. And then if the inventory file has that host, then it will restart, it will perform your activity, right? Whatever playbook you have. So inventory file will plays a vital role in the Ansible automation, right? So your host, wherever on whichever host you want to automate, that host should be available in the inventory file. If the inventory file doesn't have that host, the playbook execution will stop and it will throw an error saying that the host not found in the inventory, right? So that is the purpose of the inventory file, right? Again, also, as I said, right, since Ansible has evolved from community, right? So there are a lot of playbooks, lot of roles. Roles is nothing but a collection of playbooks. So again, we will discuss this in the course. We will discuss what are. So roles are nothing but a collection of playbooks, right? So some roles, there are a lot of roles which are available in the internet. You can download those roles, and there is a Red Hat is also providing a placeholder called Ansible Galaxy. So that Galaxy, there are a lot of roles, public roles available. Some roles are officially from Red Hat. You can download the role and you can start automating the task directly. So you don't have to write any playbooks. The playbooks are already there. You just have to give some inputs to those roles and then you can start automating. So mostly the roles are there, playbooks are there in the internet. All you need is install Ansible and download those playbooks, modify those playbooks based on your requirement, and then start automating. Okay? So those are roles are reusable. So there is a role to install web server. There is a role to install AWS VM, VMware VM. So there are a lot of roles available which you can use, right? So that is how your Ansible is used in automating your Linux tasks. Like if you observe, all the activities you have seen so far is the activities that you have covered in the RHCSA training, right? So you have seen a lot of administrative tasks in RHCA, right? All those tasks can be automated using the Ansible automation. Manually, whatever you're doing, you can automate it. Now, the next task for you, next phase after completing RHCA is you need to understand what exactly is the role of Ansible in DevOps. Because Nowadays, people talk about more about DevOps, right? Where the applications are deployed using the DevOps practices, right? So you need to understand where Ansible fits in this DevOps environment, right? So that is where you need to focus, because your next path should be Ansible followed by the DevOps. That is, you need to learn Kubernetes, containers, OpenShift, so that you can manage or automate the whole environment. Not only infrastructure, you can manage the whole DevOps environment. Right? Now, if you observe, again, DevOps is again a huge concept. Again, I will not be able to explain in the interest of time, but I will give you a simple example, simple definition of DevOps. So DevOps is not a software. DevOps is an industry practice which will reduce the gap between development team and operations team. So DevOps, practices will reduce the friction between development team and operation team, and out of which, right? So there are phases in the DevOps. Developer will write the code, they will build the code, test the code. Once the testing is done, they will release the code. Then once they release, they will deploy the code on a VM or on a container. They will check whether the application is working. They will monitor the application, and if there is any enhancement, they will plan it. Again, the circle will start coding, code, build, test, release, and then once there is a new patch, again the circle, the process will go in the infinity loop, right? So that is how rigorously the application deployment will be done, right? Coding, building, testing, releasing. So it's a rigorous process, runs continuously in the DevOps practices, right? Now, in this whole pipeline, where exactly your Ansible fits in? That's the question. Now, if you observe, Ansible can be integrated with all of the phases, right? You see all the phases here, right? Right? Plan, build, test, release, deploy, operate, and monitor. So planning. So you can install Ansible, and you can plan your inventory and playbooks in the planning phase. In the building phase, you can use Ansible to automate VM container setup, right? Testing, you can deploy test application dynamically and test your test cases. Release, you can install, or you can create blue-green deployments using your application deployments. Deploy, you can integrate Ansible with your CI/CD tools like Jenkins, GitHub, GitLab, Git. You can integrate. Operate, you can write, maintain, you and operate your Ansible playbooks. You can deploy using the same playbooks. You can deploy, delete, modify the application instances. Monitor, you can integrate Ansible with a lot of monitoring tools like Prometheus, Grafana, Nagios. You can integrate with monitoring tools, right? So DevOps, as I said, it's a practices, right? So DevOps is some sort of automation which will reduce the friction between development and operation with the help of automation. That is where the Ansible fits in to address all your DevOps activities. Again, it's not only Ansible, right? Don't think that Ansible will perform all these activities, right? Ansible will work with the DevOps tools like Jenkins, Maven, GitLab, Git, Prometheus, Grafana, right? Kibana, ELK, EFK staff. There are a lot of tools, right? So your Ansible will integrate with those tools, and then it completes your CI/CD process, right? Don't think that Ansible will replace this tool. No, Ansible will not replace any tools in the organization. Ansible mm, will help you to complement the each other by integrating. So that is the advantage of Ansible, right? So if you learn Ansible, so you will be able to automate your infrastructure task, And in the next level, you will be able to also integrate Ansible with the DevOps tools, and you will be part of the DevOps team as well. So that is how you need to start planning your path for the next few days. You should be able to target to complete or learn these automation tools, right? Now let's look, let's see the lab. We'll spend maybe there is a small demo which I wanted to show you so that you can understand how things works, right? Now, so as I told you, right, I mean, this is Ansible is already deployed. It's all up and running. So I wrote a playbook, okay, so which is, and as I told you, right, in Ansible, you need to create an inventory file, right? So there is already an inventory file, cat inventory, right? If you see, I have workstation machine, I have server A, and I have the group. Again, there is a grouping concept also, which you will learn later. So Ansible is nothing but a set of hosts which the Ansible manages. Now I want to install a web server on server A, which is your Apache, right? So generally what you do, you log into this host using SSH, and then you configure the repository, then you will install install HTTPD, you will create an index.html file, then you will start the service, then you will check whether the web server is up or not, right? These are all the manual tasks, right? So now what I have done is I have automated this task by writing a playbook, right? So I have created a file, okay? So here, if you observe carefully, the same YAML file which we have seen in our presentation, right? So I am installing web server on, if you see host, the host is server A. So I am deploying a web server on host server A, and then I am using a inbuilt DNF module. So DNF is the command to install the package, right? So using the DNF module, I am installing the HTTPD and firewall D packages, and I want latest version of these two packages, right? And after installing the packages, right, web server, the document path is where www.html, right? So what I'm doing, I am using a copy module, Ansible copy module, and I am copying this contents, right, to this location where www.html, index.html. This file will be created on the server A, which is on my client, right? And then I am opening up the firewall ports. I am opening up I am installing the firewall service, right? And then using the firewall D, I am opening up the firewall port, which is HTTP, which is nothing but your port 8, right? So multiple steps here. I have installed the HTTP package and firewall D package. I have created an index.html file, and I am opening up a firewall rule, right? And once this is done, I am enabling my Apache web server. I am starting my Apache web server on the server A. And then finally, after the installation, I am testing my connectivity using the URI module, like URI http server.example.com. So it should return the contents. If the status code is 200, that means that my web server is up and running. So right, web server, if the request is 200, it indicates that the web server is up and running, right? So if you look at this, right, the same things you do it manually. If you want to do the same thing on 10 hosts or 100 hosts, how much time will it take? Not only time, sometimes at times you might do some manual mistakes also, right? Because you're doing it manually, right? So all those human mistakes and all those things will be avoided if you use this kind of automation, right? So now once again, this file you have to write it by yourself, right? So you can write the file, or there are some lot of files available in the internet. You can download and then you can modify based on your requirements, right? Once the file is there, you run the script, right? So Ansible navigator run -m std out, and then I am giving my the YAML file and as an input to my Ansible navigator. So Ansible navigator is a tool from Ansible which will run this particular playbook, whatever you define in this playbook, that will be run using by this Ansible. right? So when you run this, it will start, right, executing the playbook, right? So if you see, it is gathering the facts of server A, it is gathering the details of server A, and see, it is installing the latest version of HTTPD. So it has installed HTTPD and firewall-D packages, right? Let's scroll up, right? And then see, test HTML page is installed. It created the test HTML page, right? And then it opened up the firewall ports, HTTP service, and then my web server is up and running, right? And then see, on server A, there are 5 activities it has changed. Nothing has failed. Everything is up and running. Now, what you can do is you can go to the browser and then you can just say server A .example.com. Right. So probably, okay. So probably I see. So then what you can do is you can do a curl, or you can, curl is a web browser, right? You can check with that as well. See, welcome to RHCA webinar.com. See, whatever you type in the, whatever you are given in the index.html, the same thing is displayed when you do a curl. Oh, server A.lab. So that is a mistake. The URL is wrong. Server A.lab.example.com. We are giving a wrong URL. Okay, lab.example.com. That is a fully qualified domain name. See, and you should be able to see the output like this. Right? So how long will it take? How long did it take? Hardly a matter of 3 to 5 seconds, not even minutes, seconds. So similarly, if you have a complex task, right, which takes around 3 hours, 4 hours, or 1 day, right, it can automate it if you write playbooks properly, right? So that is what you can achieve using the Ansible playbooks, right? So and this should be your next path, for you to explore, understand, and automate your regular day-to-day tasks, right? Right. And then yeah, so that's a quick demo, like how Ansible works. And then so that's it. That's the end of this webinar. So for the next couple of minutes, if you have any questions, you can unmute. If you have any questions, myself and Silata, we can address your queries. If you have any questions on trainings or anything you want to discuss, you can unmute and you can talk, right? Right. So any questions from anyone? Right.
Any doubts, you can unmute and ask.
Yeah.
Arvind will clarify. Hope everybody has done RHCSA, right?
Yeah. So I mean,
Again, can you repeat your question?
Did you complete your RHCSA certification?
Yes, I have done.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So are you planning for RHCE, Ansible automation?
Yes, I'm planning for it.
Okay. So whatever Arvind has given the demo, were you able to follow? You have any queries?
It was clear session, it was clear webinar, and it was clarifying and giving idea about Ansible and how to use Ansible and where Ansible fit in the DevOps process. And he also showed us one example. It was clear from my side. It gives me idea.